Okay, so today we're going to focus on a reflective session. So good morning all. I hope you had a nice Easter break and Easter, and obviously it's a busy period for some of you guys with football as well and training. And so today we're going to sort of discuss activity planning and scheduling and sort of finding ways to release tension. Professional football, professional sport is a highly pressured environment. I know we've talked about, pressure is what we put in ourselves and from external stimulus. I know there are people out there that sort of work, very challenging jobs. I'm not denying that. What I mean by in football, the pressure is different because week to week you're playing and there's expectation. And also the feeling as well. I know for sure there's plenty of players that I know of that really want to put a performance on for the fans. It's really important for them too because they understand that there's, good, hard-working people who come to watch the game and they're entitled to an opinion. And years ago, guys, it was different because years ago you had phone-ins in football, you had different sort of media. Now you've got other outlets like social media and everyone's entitled to the opinion in football. That's okay. But football is a sport that has very high emotion. And as a player going through, we do the best. And, I've spoken to Tony. We do the best to take the pressure off you and play. So you play the game and enjoy the game as much as you can to perform to the best of your ability. The way the training structured is important to do that, and you'll know Tony he sort of emphasizes that you sort of take the pressure off yourself and play, and so the idea is activity planning. I'm going to talk about this evening, and some of these things. I mean, you lads are a good bunch of lads, and you're bright lads, and you know a lot of stuff. You're very well informed, so sometimes there's things I might say on some of our sessions that you know already, or it reinforces learning, but you might hear something different. Having been in my field for so long now, hopefully if I say one thing and it makes a difference to you, then it's job done. That's the sort of plan. I'm here to complement the great work that's being done at the Academy. Hopefully I can sort of give the extra 1%. And I do the best I can to stay up to date with all the new things that are coming out for mental preparation. And tonight we sort of focus on activity planning and scheduling, and talk about how important it is to do enjoyable activities, taking time, the importance of enjoyable activities. Taking time can have on our thoughts and positive impression on the emotions, and that impacts performance. The better place you are mentally, guys, the better you'll play on the weekend. And what I mean by that is, yourself, when things are going good in life and, things are working out well, the games are going well and, school or work, college and friends, and you turn up, it's like momentum. But there are times in sport that things don't go to plan, and we have other things that affect us too. And, I've always said that what we do is performance related. If anyone's ever sort of struggling, mentally, always be open and, speak to a coach and speak to the appropriate person. Obviously, if anyone's ever sort of struggling mentally, it's important they go see, the appropriate professional, be it a GP or whatever. It's always important to do that, to keep on top of things. This is an open sort of, we're open with things here, guys. And, I've got a lot of experience, and I know there's going to be times that people do struggle. So this is not in the place to say that this is going to be, this is a strategy. Obviously, mental health is really important. It's really important if anyone sort of struggles with pressure and have to see the appropriate professional, knock on the door of the coach who might say, well, actually, you need to go see, a GP or something along them lines to sort of to offload. And if that's where you are and need, where this is concerned, it's sort of from a performance point of view, activity scheduling. Certainly with my athletes and my footballers, my stabler players, I always make a point of doing activities outside of the game. It's really important. And the difficult thing is, you guys love the game so much, like myself, we love the game, we love sport. It's very easy to get caught up in it, do extra training, which is great. Watch it on TV, which is great. But we've got to try and stay fresh mentally. It really is important that you stay fresh mentally. And it's a bit like, say, if you go on an evening out with some teammates, an away trip, the banter on the training ground, you know what it's like when you have a really good laugh. And one of the best tonics when things aren't going well in the game is having a good laugh. And that's one of the reasons why when I've worked with teams directly, after a run of defeats, it's okay, let's do some team bonding. Or if we have a heavy defeat, then we might do a fun session on the next day. And you might think, well, why would you do that? And the reason being, it just breaks the pattern, guys. Because I'm well aware the players, you guys, if you lose, you get beat, you don't go out to get beat. And it's just sport is that way. And I know it impacts people. I know it impacts me. Absolutely. You sort of, you do. And we're all human, and, you lose on the weekend, and it does have an impact. Over the years, you sort of do your best. Certainly I do my best to sort of put it to one side and sort of refocus. But yeah, of course, and you wouldn't be in the game if it didn't matter. We care about the game, but it's really important to break that. And this one I'll touch on, this evening, and things like, say, having a training ground, having that sort of dressing room banter, which is great. And that's one of the things we've sort of, Tony, he takes the pressure off. We have banter, we have a laugh, but when it's time to roll our sleeves up, we roll our sleeves up and we get to work. But there is a time for a bit of a laugh. And that's really important, because in difficult situations you're going to face in sport, and you will face them, guys, in sport. We're all going to face difficult challenges. There's going to be times we get beat. There's going to be times that things don't go to plan. It doesn't matter who you are as a player. It does not matter. We've seen the best players in the world go through slumps in form, and the best coaches, managers. And this is what we're going to sort of touch on this evening. Activity schedule is really important for that, because we want to keep ourselves, sometimes you might be going for a hard time, your teammate. It's not always easy to laugh with the expectations and sort of the activity scheduling. It's not always easy to sort of, we have a bad loss on the weekend, and we just want to get back into training and refocus. But sometimes you've got to sort of break that pattern. Sport, there's a lot of the pressure in sport. And I know some people say, well, pressure is what we put on ourselves, but the reality is that we've got a desire to be the best we can be. You guys want to be the best you can be. You want to go as far as you possibly can, which is why you get up in the morning, you train hard, and that brings expectations. Expectations can come from yourselves, obviously, expectation from family, from teammates, from coaches. All these things, have a bad performance, and sometimes we feel like we've let people down, and that sort of stuff. And it's really important. And some of the tips I'm going to give you this evening, this morning, your time, are going to be really useful for you. Things like creating, with my players, I get them to create a gratitude list. And all that is to write all the things they're grateful for in life. Some of the things we take for granted, food, clothes, technology, family, friends, being able to do what you do. These are really key points, and really feeling it. It's really important, because sometimes you get up and you think, okay, the whole world is against me here. I've got beat. And especially when you sort of start moving up in the game, and the media has an opinion, and people, and it's really important, guys, as you make your way in the game, to stay focused and really minimize. I always say to the players, if you sort of go on to do well, and obviously some of the players at the academy have gone on to do well, and it's great when you see the newspaper headlines, social media stuff, it's fantastic. But also there's the other side to it. Once you're up there, then you're there for people. The higher up you go, nobody generally notices you if you sort of stay on the radar. if you play it safe. But once you're up there, you're there for people to see. And that's the sort of thing that brings a whole new different dimension to the game. Because if you sort of end up, reading what's said about you on the paper, or you hear a talk show and someone says he shouldn't be picked or she shouldn't be picked, or if you go on social media and see people putting comments, then that's going to distract you. And it's really important that you minimize and save your energy for what you do in football, but also save the energy for other things. When you've got free time, enjoy it. And gratitude list is great. I get, my place to do that. Being in the game, you're very fortunate, very talented lads, and to be playing in the game, have this opportunity that a lot of people don't have, is fantastic, and just useful to sort of remind ourselves. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Proximity, getting around people, and we've all been around people where you walk away and you literally feel drained. But there are people that like a joke and are infectious, and you feel better for it, and that's really important. I've sort of touched on this a few times in the course of our sessions. Proximity is key. You look around you and think, well, who am I associating with? Getting around people who really want the best for you, and vice versa, is key, which is important. That's not to say you're not there to pick people up. Absolutely, we're there, or signposting the best person to help them is the sort of key things. The idea, and I've spoken about this before, the expectation we put on ourselves. And I know what it's like, expectation. I've worked in the game for a long time myself, and truthfully honest, there's been times the expectation for me as well, it's like, okay, if I have a player that I'm working with, the expectation, I'm going to turn it around, they're going to do well. If I go into a team, the expectation, what's he going to do? The academy, the expectation, what can he deliver from his perspective to help the players? So there is that, and we all have expectation, the players I have. And when you get caught up in all that, we sort of create pressure for ourselves, and we forget about the enjoyment of the game. Okay, and that's really important. The enjoyment for the game, the enjoyment, and remind yourself how much you enjoy the game, and that helps you to be more relaxed and calm going into games. Because one thing you'll learn, if you haven't already learned it in football, momentum is a big thing. Momentum is a big deal. You lose one game, and then you carry that mindset to the next game, and the next game, and momentum. Then equally, you can sort of break that. I've always had this sort of theory, even at the back of a few defeats, when I've been brought into teams. Come on, let's do it. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 3, and 4 wins, so to speak. Let's win one half. So I've gone into teams and said, let's win the first half and see what happens. Let's win the second half. To break it down, which is sort of key going forward. Reputations in football don't mean a great deal, as you will have seen this year. If you sort of, you guys, you watch the leagues, and you'll see that, one year you can win the league, you can win the Champions League, the next year, you're struggling, and that's just the way it is. Football can change really quickly. So what you've got to make sure you do is, and I do with my athletes, is planning ahead to include relaxing and pleasant activities, because that's a big influence on your mood, your mindset. Now, I know during the week you plan your sessions, and that's key. But if you've got an outlet to relax and recharge the batteries, you go into your sessions a lot more energetic, a lot more focused. So activities that keep the mind busy, and especially with sort of rumination. And rumination is excess worrying and repeated mulling over bad experiences. And this, in the case of football, you see it happening a lot. Footballers kind of lose their way a little bit, where they have a bad game and they struggle, and it builds up, and they start to worry about their career. Will I get the contract? Will I play again? This sort of is a cycle, and rumination certainly being linked to anxiety, negative thinking. And I'm not suggesting activity schedule as a recommendation for depression. That's obviously always important to see a mental health professional, GP. But what I'm saying, it will help with the mindset. Okay, we've all been there. We've all had that bad game on the weekend, and then we struggle to break away from that. And one of the best ways to do that is on a Sunday, go swimming. There's been times when I work with teams, I've said, to the players on Sunday, you know what, rather than come in to train, we play Saturday, we get beat, and rather than say we'll come in Sunday and train, I said to the manager, why don't we sort of, tell them to train on their own on Sunday with their family, go for a swim, or just to ease things off, and that sort of helps to boost their morale going forward. So these are the little things that can help a lot. A mind that is not in an active state and not focused but not relaxed is constant worrying. Pleasant activities and other mind techniques is meditation. We covered meditation a few weeks ago. Effective ways to present these sort of thoughts in the context of football. Taking half an hour even just to lie down and not think about everything every day. 10, 15 minutes to just, even if you're sort of more comfortable listening to music, just a time away is key. I find it useful with my clients, so they can write a list down that they enjoy doing. So it could be exercise, it could be a country walk, the beach, a hobby, a social interaction, reading, going to restaurant, theatre, gardening, just writing a whole list. And you can think of a list of things that you like to do outside football. Now, I'm not saying to replace football with these things. I'm saying that you sort of, you add these into your week, because football can be at times a hostile environment. So by spending some time every day doing something different, it'll help you to recharge the batteries. It'll help you to train harder. It'll help you stay more focused. And especially, guys, when you're in a situation where, I know some of you guys have got aspirations to play abroad. So if you do end up playing abroad, it's even more important then, because obviously you spend time away from family, from friends, or if you play in a different state. And that's what's really important, to sort of take time and you explore the new surroundings where possible, and sort of learn different things. And that sort of helps to keep the mind sort of sharp. And then when you're in training, you're underway. Embrace the place you're in, embrace the culture, embrace the things that go on. And it's always a good thing, you find things that work for you are really useful to do, and not feel guilty for doing them. So if you find yourself, lying on the beach, going for a country walk, doing different exercise, playing golf, then not to think, well, I should be doing football with every second of every day. Because if you end up doing that all the time, then the issue becomes you want to keep your mind sort of fresh, which is key, and sharp. So the reality is, I think for me, making time for education, learning new things, applying yourself to uni, to school, family time, all these things are obviously important. But, think about things you do enjoy doing away from the game, with the right people. I'm not saying go to a nightclub till 4 in the morning when you've got a game, but albeit, there are times that, people go out occasionally, if it's a Christmas party or whatever. But, when you're making your way in your game, it's a different way of life that you generally sign up for. As a professional athlete, it's very hard to live as a professional athlete like, the general person on the street lives, because you've got to be in tune mentally and physically. If you drop 1%, then you're going to underperform. So these are sort of key things to think about and integrate, going forward. So I know myself, I have, some high pressured roles and in my work, and things I do. I like to, go for walks, just doing things away from the environment I'm in every day. And that really helps a lot, because you go back into it 100%. And it's really useful to see the activity scheduling, because burnout is not good. Anything you enjoy, you used to enjoy, and ensuring it's relative and brief and simple, low in stress, within means and abilities. So it could be, when I've been in different teams, maybe like even a PlayStation competition or a snooker competition amongst the players. They're useful things. And the way I would do it, guys, is if you look at your activity schedule, you've got an activity schedule, you have one from the academy, one of your own, and you look at that and think every week or two ahead, I'm going to make sure I put a time in every day for an activity I enjoy. Now, with you guys, you're very passionate about football. You could easily put in a football activity in there. And if you did want to, you can do things like, football, golf. You could do things that are related to the game. But my strong suggestion sometimes would be to have time away, from the game. I think the issue with playing other sports like tennis and stuff like that is then you've got to be aware of injury. You need to recover. Your muscles need to recover as well. And that's sort of, one of them things. I'm not always so keen on the players that I sort of work with sort of going away and playing too many other sports, because sometimes it sort of can be a hindrance on the training. But I always think it's useful for them to do activities that can complement and take their mind away. So I'll tell my players, guys, to look at the activity schedule and see if they can integrate, activities in there that are going to help them to recharge the batteries. So when they do turn up on Saturday for the game, they're on it. When they do come to training, they're on it at 100%, because you don't want to burn out. So the idea is, like I mentioned before, I showed the activity schedule before. I can send it to you again. All the players I work with, I strongly suggest they've got an activity schedule, and I get them to sort of, be very clear and look at that and think, well, is this going to take me to where I want to go? So the primary goal for them professionally is to sort of be the best they can be. And you look at that clearly, and you've got obviously, the academy in the morning, your training, and you look at your team training, the game, and you're thinking around that. Obviously, education is really important to learn and new things, but also having the time to enjoy yourself where you can. You just got to be careful when you're doing that. The balance isn't sort of, it's about being sensible, saying, well, okay, yes, my priority is to be a footballer, get my best shot. And I know that. So it's being sensible and getting the balance right here. Playing on the PlayStation, playing snooker all day, going for a walk all day isn't going to get you where, it's where you want to go. So the compartmentalizing it, maybe just to sort of integrate things around that. That's a useful thing to do, which is key in sort of being sensible like that. And that's why it's really important. I mentioned earlier about knowing your fitness stats, knowing where you are physically. Am I where I need to be? Individually training. What do I need to practice on throughout the week? My left foot, my right foot, my heading ability, my tackling, my speed, my core work. So you got great coaches. You can speak to your coaches and say, well, where do you think I need to improve technically? Where do I need to improve physically? Where do I need to improve mentally? And you're integrating that. But outside that, you're having a rest. And you might sort of do mindfulness. You might go for a walk in the beach. You might go for a walk in the countryside. You might do watch a film. But making sure you take time for yourself every day, guys. It really is important. I can't stress that enough. And it might sound the obvious. It might sound, well, tell me something I don't know, Jim. But just because we know it, it doesn't mean we do it. And you've probably heard some of my radio shows. I interview so many great athletes, and they all make sure they take time. When it's time for business, then obviously they do what they need to do. But even when they have big tournaments, they'll make sure that, okay, I need to get away for a bit. Because, and when I speak to the Olympic athletes, for example, and they talk about when they compete at the highest level, even there are times that they need to sort of, think about other things, distract their mind from the constant things that go through your mind. What if I don't win? What if I get injured? What if this happens? And in your case, it's different because the season's longer, and but still things go through your mind, and sort of having that's really key to do. Burnout is not good. I'm not saying burnout just happens because we don't activity schedule. It happens for many reasons, but certainly one variable linked to burnout is, consistently being sort of focused on one thing. You sort of, sometimes you can really want to achieve something so much that you put every second of every day into it. And I admire people for doing it. And it's not my position to say what people should and shouldn't do. But I do know, and I have seen players over the years who haven't taken time for themselves. They've just, every second live and breathe. I admire them to a point for that. But equally in saying that, the mind, it's like physically. You can only train so much before you start to tip the balance. Mentally as well, you start to sort of struggle if you sort of constantly. And I know I've mentioned in the past, when you watch a game, watch it like a professional, where you're analysing the player. What would I do if I'm playing against him? But equally, there's a time to just watch passively too. And that's a good thing too. Just watch as if you're sort of, a fan. And I do myself sometimes. The games I'll watch to study and learn and think, but there are games that I'll just watch passively. So, for example, the team, the non-league team I'm working with now and have been working with, we train, and I watched the game. I watched them play the other night, and I was watching it to see where we have to improve, where we are. But throughout the week, I'll watch other games on TV as a fan sometimes, but then I'll watch other games to see where the players are and get ideas and learn. So you've got to get that balance. Important you do. The diary is key. Keep a diary, guys, with you too. So then you're well aware. I strongly recommend you keep a diary of your training. The reason being, so you know what works, what doesn't work. You got an idea where you are. Keeping a schedule is quite useful. So sort of knowing and being able to pinpoint things, with time slots, and a bit like this one here, you'll see, I have one for myself, and I recommend the players do so. Okay, I'm doing this at this time, because your time management is key. And the higher up you go in the game, the more time management. You're going to have people who everyone wants to sort of, a piece of the action. Everyone wants to sort of like, the media want you. This person wants to speak to you. This person wants to. It comes in everywhere. And you've got to be really single-minded. You really have to be single-minded with your time, because you're just going to get dragged everywhere. And sometimes people might think, this person, comes across as being selfish or maybe rude because you don't get back in touch, whatever. But you can't, be, you have a different life as a professional. Obviously, you got your family, the most important thing. You've got your friends. You've got your training, big priority. You've got time for yourself. But around that, you're going to have like other commitments too. And you've got to make sure that you maximize, so you know where you're going to be, and look after yourselves. If you're tired after training and someone says, well, I just want to do this interview, you don't feel like doing it, then don't do it. Unless it's an obligation. So let's do this. You need a rest after training. Have a good rest. It's really important you rest and recharge the batteries. And this will sort of tell you, this sort of way, having the schedule, guys, is a reminder to mix training tasks with other responsibilities that you might have as you go up in the game. Might be media, it might be other stuff, might be interviews, but social is important, and rest activity is key too. Really, really important stuff. Someone might say, well, let's go do this, and you need a rest, which is key. Having enjoyable activities, and I've mentioned earlier before, football, doesn't feel like work, in the sense that professionals are privileged to play football, but they still need a break. And I hear this sometimes, on the radio, that, the footballer, why do they need a break? And the people who work harder. I've got a huge respect for people who do jobs, huge respect for nurses, huge respect for teachers, huge respect for many different professions, key workers, tremendous amount of respect for them. They do some incredible work. In football, it is entertainment, obviously, but it means a lot to people. But even in football, when people say, well, the players, when they say they're tired, and it does take its toll on the players. To be able to perform when you got all eyes on you every week, and not only that, it's your career. In the Premier League, players get paid really well. Outside the Premier League, there's other challenges, like, will they get another contract? They got to move to different parts of the country all the time. They got to people don't see the other side. If they play League 1 or 2, they've got to move from one team to another team, other side of the country, put the kids back into a new school, do all these things, logistics, find a new place, then move again, make new friends. These are all things. It is important for footballers to have that break, absolutely, and not sort of feel guilty for doing that. There are obviously more demanding jobs, but there's different types of pressure as well that different jobs bring as well. So pacing yourself is really key. One of the main objectives, guys, of activity scheduling and the plan is to review the effects of the way you think. You measure your performances every week. Out of 10, how well did I play? Because the idea is your state of mind and emotion will affect your performance in football. So if you're sort of breaking things up and you're doing things, you're fresher mentally and you're playing well, then you've got the right ingredients. If it's not working for you, then you change it. And that's the whole key. Humour's really important too, guys, around the training. Integrating humour, fine. The best leaders, coaches, influential people, eases tension. Seeing some of the funny side of things too, humour. I'm not saying sort of laugh when you get beat and all these things. I'm saying sort of to lighten the mood and to go again. Creating opportunities to sort of have a good laugh now and again. Maybe go watch a film with teammates, comedy show, reading a book. These are things that are sort of suggested my players over the years do. On the training ground, we have banter, we have a laugh. Team building activities. I can assure you there's been times that players have been hurting. If you've seen us on training ground having a laugh and banter, we get beat. That's with every respect to the fans. We hurt too. Absolutely. Just to be able to sort of ease that pressure. Team building are really important things. And that's, at the non-league club I'm at now, I'm going to give the captain a plug. He's a great captain, great guy, great footballer. Michael, great footballer, and as a great leader, he organises a lot of stuff with the lads, and these little things that he does. Not say little things; they're big things that he does, but activities, quizzes, these sort of things. They take the pressure off. A young team of lads, and it's a great captain. I've been very fortunate over the years to work with teams and players that are really, really strong leaders, and sort of doing things like that is really, really useful to do. When appropriate. I'm not saying sort of laugh. You get beat 5-0 to walk off the field, giggling. Obviously, we're devastated, but sometimes we can sort of look at the positives to come out of a negative, put it in perspective. We go again type mentality to enjoy the sport. Sometimes about lightening up as well. Letting go of things we can't control. Being able to laugh at ourselves sometimes. We make a mistake in the game. I've had, worked some great players who they've had a chance to score a goal. They've done an air swing or whatever. It's been, gutted at the time, but to look back and just, have a laugh about it, let it go and think, it happened. It happens to the best of us, to move on. We see some of the greatest players in the world make mistakes. If you get hung up on it, it's not good. Keep it in perspective. In the big scale of things, guys, that's really important. The big picture. Always look at the big picture is key. Everything's temporary. One thing to remember, guys, everything is temporary. Challenges, good or bad, strive to keep a positive outlook in every situation. It's not always easy to laugh. It's adversity. We've seen adversity in the last year around the world, but being able to dust ourselves off, rolling our sleeves up when it's appropriate, having a laugh and always think of a way forward is a big thing. We always look for a way forward. That is a big deal for me. And any player that I work with will tell you that for me, it's always important we think of a way forward. If we get beat in the game on the weekend, we think of a way forward. If we win, then we think of a way forward. We're always moving forward. When we fall down, as I've mentioned before, we get back again. Because there are going to be times we do fall, and it's not the question of where we fall. We just got to keep getting up and going again. And that's the sort of key to it. So today, it's a bit more of a reflective session. It links really well to next session, how we manage. Next session is going to be how we manage stress, how we manage the demands again. But I'm going to give you sort of practical techniques next week that you can use, which I've used with many sports people over many, many years. But it's been great to see you all again after a little bit of a break. Have a great session, guys. As always, you've got my details. If you need to get in touch with anything, I'll help in any way I can. Have a fantastic week, guys, and we go again next week. Take care, guys.